In the vibrant core of Los Angeles, where sunshine and stardom mingled effortlessly, two worlds were on the verge of a collision. Jessica Jess Anderson, a quirky and vivacious physical therapist, was known for her unconventional methods and contagious sense of humor. She lived in a cozy apartment with her best friend and ultimate sidekick, Abby, a sassy and quick-witted bartender with a penchant for getting into mischief. Jess's life was a whirlwind of color and laughter. Her apartment was a reflection of her eclectic taste, filled with vibrant paintings, a jungle of houseplants, and a collection of peculiar knickknacks that never failed to amuse her patients. Jess's therapy sessions were legendary for their blend of rigorous exercise and spontaneous fun, often involving dance breaks, therapy dogs, and an endless loop of 80s pop hits. On the other side of town was Derek Stone, a towering professional basketball player with a reputation for his intense focus and disciplined lifestyle. Standing at 6'9", Derek was a formidable presence on the court, known for his powerful dunks and strategic plays. Off the court, however, he was reserved and private, preferring quiet nights at home over the glitz and glamour his status afforded him. Their paths crossed in the most unexpected of ways. It all started during a high-stakes game where Derek, in the midst of an electrifying play, landed awkwardly and felt a sharp pain shoot through his knee. The crowd gasped as he collapsed on the court, clutching his leg. The team's medical staff quickly assessed the situation, and it was clear that Derek needed specialized therapy to recover. Enter Jess, who came highly recommended for her expertise and unique approach. Derek, desperate to get back on the court, agreed to see her, albeit with some reservations. He had heard stories about her unconventional methods and wasn't sure what to expect. Their first meeting was anything but ordinary. Jess greeted Derek with a wide smile and a firm handshake, her enthusiasm palpable. Derek, used to the sterile environment of professional sports medicine, was taken aback by the vibrant atmosphere of Jess's clinic. The walls were painted in bright colors, inspirational quotes were scattered about, and soft, calming music played in the background. Therapy dogs roamed freely, offering comfort to the patients. Jess began with a thorough assessment, her approach professional, yet infused with humor to put Derek at ease. Abby, ever the supportive sidekick, couldn't resist adding her own brand of mischief. She frequently popped into the clinic, armed with sarcastic quips and a bottomless supply of snacks. Her antics often left Derek baffled and Jess in fits of laughter. Despite their vastly different worlds, Jess and Derek found themselves drawn to each other. Jess's lightheartedness was a refreshing contrast to Derek's intense focus. She challenged him to let go of his seriousness and embrace the fun side of life. Derek, in turn, was intrigued by Jess's passion and zest for life. However, their budding friendship hit a bump when Abby, in a classic display of her meddling nature, orchestrated a surprise outing to a theme park, thinking it would be a great way for Derek to loosen up. Jess reluctantly agreed, knowing that Derek wasn't exactly the theme park type. But Abby was persistent, and soon enough the trio found themselves standing at the entrance of Magic Mountain. The day started off awkwardly. Derek, towering above the crowds, looked out of place and uncomfortable. Jess tried to lighten the mood with jokes and stories, while Abby went all in, dragging them onto every roller coaster and thrill ride. As the day progressed, something remarkable happened. Derek, who initially seemed out of his element, began to relax and even enjoy himself. Jess's infectious laughter and Abby's relentless enthusiasm were hard to resist. Their fun, however, took an unexpected turn on the infamous Goliath roller coaster. As they hurtled down the track at breakneck speed, Derek's seatbelt malfunctioned, leaving him gripping the safety bar for dear life. Jess, seated next to him, noticed his white-knuckled grip and wide-eyed panic. In a rare moment of vulnerability, Derek admitted he was terrified of roller coasters. Jess, sensing an opportunity to bond, made it her mission to help him overcome his fear. They spent the rest of the day on smaller rides, slowly building up Derek's confidence. Abby, never one to miss out on drama, documented the entire ordeal on her phone, much to Derek's chagrin. By the end of the day, they were exhausted, but closer than ever. Back at the clinic, Jess and Derek's therapy sessions took on a new dynamic. They shared inside jokes and playful banter, with Abby often chiming in with her sarcastic commentary. Despite their growing camaraderie, Jess maintained professional boundaries, aware of the complications that could arise from crossing the line with a patient. Yet the attraction between them was undeniable. Derek found himself looking forward to his sessions with Jess, not just for the physical therapy, but for the joy and laughter she brought into his life. Jess, in turn, admired Derek's dedication and resilience, and couldn't help but feel a flutter of excitement whenever he smiled at her. Their worlds were different, but they were beginning to find common ground in humor and love. And as their friendship blossomed, they couldn't help but wonder if it was the start of something more. As Derek's therapy sessions continued, the attraction between him and Jess grew stronger. Their interactions were filled with playful teasing and genuine affection, and even Abby, the ultimate sidekick, noticed the chemistry bubbling beneath the surface. Jess's quirky charm and Derek's newfound sense of humor created a dynamic that was as heartwarming as it was entertaining. Jess introduced Derek to her world outside the clinic. They went on spontaneous adventures, exploring hidden gems in the city, from quirky cafes to offbeat art galleries. Derek, initially out of his element, found himself enjoying these escapades more than he had anticipated. Jess's enthusiasm was infectious, and he began to appreciate the beauty in the small whimsical details of life. One memorable outing was a visit to a local farmer's market. Jess, a self-proclaimed foodie, was in her element, bouncing from stall to stall, sampling artisanal cheeses and organic produce. Derek, towering above the crowds, followed her with a bemused smile. Jess's excitement was contagious, and soon Derek found himself sampling exotic fruits and engaging in animated conversations with the vendors. Their playful banter reached new heights when Jess challenged Derek to a cooking competition. They spent the afternoon in her quirky kitchen, surrounded by her eclectic collection of utensils and gadgets. Jess's culinary skills were impressive, but Derek was determined to hold his own. The competition was fierce, with Abby acting as the self-appointed judge, offering her hilariously biased commentary. The kitchen turned into a battlefield of flour and spices, but the end results were nothing short of delicious. They sat down to a meal that was a perfect blend of both their efforts, laughing and sharing stories. For Derek, it was a refreshing change from his usual regimented diet and strict training schedule. For Jess, it was a chance to see Derek in a more relaxed and playful light. Their bond deepened with each passing day. Derek began to open up about his life, sharing stories of his childhood and the pressures of being a professional athlete. Jess listened with genuine interest and empathy, offering her own stories of triumphs and challenges. They discovered common ground in their love for history, their appreciation for nature, and their shared sense of humor. Despite the growing attraction, Jess remained cautious. She valued her career and her integrity too much to jeopardize it for a fleeting romance. But there were moments, brief and fleeting, where she caught herself looking at Derek differently. In those moments, she couldn't help but wonder if he felt the same. Their relationship took an unexpected turn when Derek invited Jess to his team's charity gala. It was a glamorous event, filled with celebrities and media attention. Jess, who was more comfortable in sneakers and yoga pants, felt out of place in the glitzy environment. Derek, sensing her discomfort, stayed by her side, introducing her to his teammates and making sure she felt included. The night was a whirlwind of music, dancing, and laughter. Derek and Jess stole glances at each other, the unspoken attraction between them growing stronger. As the night wore on, they found themselves alone on the balcony, the city lights twinkling in the background. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and for a moment, it seemed like the perfect time for them to take their relationship to the next level. But just as Derek was about to confess his feelings, they were interrupted by a sudden commotion. Abby, in a classic display of her penchant for trouble, had accidentally spilled a tray of champagne on one of the team's sponsors. The situation quickly escalated, and Derek was pulled away to manage the fallout. Jess watched as Derek navigated the crisis with grace and professionalism. She admired his ability to handle the situation, but it also reminded her of the vast differences in their worlds. The gala was a stark contrast to the lighthearted adventures they shared, and Jess couldn't help but feel a pang of uncertainty about where they stood. The night ended on a somber note, with Derek and Jess parting ways, both lost in their thoughts. The attraction between them was undeniable, but the challenges of merging their vastly different lives loomed large. As their relationship continued to evolve, the challenges of navigating their different worlds became more apparent. Derek's demanding career and public persona clashed with Jess's free-spirited lifestyle. Despite their best efforts to make things work, the pressures began to take a toll. The turning point came when Derek's team made it to the playoffs. The intense training schedule and media frenzy left Derek with little time for anything else. Jess, feeling increasingly sidelined, struggled to cope with the distance growing between them. Their once effortless connection was now strained, and the playful banter that had defined their relationship was replaced with tension and misunderstandings. Abby, ever the voice of reason, tried to mediate, but even her best efforts couldn't bridge the widening gap. Jess and Derek found themselves arguing more often, their conversations filled with frustration and hurt. The joy and laughter that had brought them together seemed like a distant memory. In a particularly heated argument, Derek accused Jess of not understanding the pressures he faced. Jess, hurt by his words, retorted that he had no idea what it was like to be with someone who was constantly in the spotlight. The argument ended with Jess storming out, leaving Derek feeling more alone than ever. The days that followed were filled with a painful silence. Jess threw herself into her work, trying to distract herself from the heartache. Derek, consumed by the playoffs, buried his feelings under a veneer of professionalism. Both of them missed each other terribly, but neither was willing to make the first move to reconcile. It was during one of Derek's crucial playoff games that the turning point came. As he stood on the court, surrounded by the roar of the crowd, his mind kept drifting to Jess. He realized that despite the pressures and challenges, she was the one who brought joy and light into his life. The thought of losing her was unbearable. In a moment of clarity, Derek knew what he had to do. After the game, he reached out to Abby, enlisting her help for a grand gesture to win Jess back. Abby, always up for a bit of drama, eagerly agreed. The plan was simple, yet heartfelt. Derek decided to recreate their first unofficial date, the day at the theme park. He rented out the entire park for the evening, filling it with fairy lights and soft music. Abby made sure Jess was brought to the park without any prior knowledge, under the pretense of needing help with an emergency. When Jess arrived, she was stunned. The empty theme park, illuminated by twinkling lights, looked magical. Derek stood at the entrance, holding a bouquet of her favorite flowers. Her heart pounded as she walked towards him, a mix of emotions swirling inside her. Derek, his eyes filled with sincerity, apologized for the way he had treated her. He admitted that he had let the pressures of his career overshadow what truly mattered, their relationship. He told her how much she meant to him and how he couldn't imagine his life without her. Jess, her heart softening, admitted that she had been scared too. Scared of losing herself in his world and of not being enough. But seeing Derek standing there, bearing his heart, made her realize that love was worth fighting for. With tears in her eyes, Jess forgave Derek. They spent the evening riding the roller coasters, reliving the fun and laughter of their first adventure together. As they stood at the top of the Ferris wheel, overlooking the city, Derek took Jess's hand and promised to make their relationship work, no matter the challenges. Their reunion was a beautiful blend of romance and adventure, filled with laughter and heartfelt moments. Derek and Jess realized that their love was strong enough to withstand any obstacles. With Abby cheering them on from the sidelines, they embraced their differences and built a future together, one filled with humor, love, and endless adventures. Thank you so much for listening to this short, romantic audiobook. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to Love Stories Unplugged.